You stupid bitch. Yeah, you're a stupid bitch. You stupid bitch.
No.
So you
Okay.
all ready to go?
Yeah. Oh my God. You dumb bitch. You are not going to be able to do 2 episodes. Oh, this is going to be hilarious. I can't wait.
I could do 2 episodes.
Okay. All right. So do you want to kick us off?
Well, it is true crime.
Mm.
And hello, stupid bitches, and welcome to this week's episode of Stupid Bitches Say What. It's an Aussie podcast about everything, yet nothing, but always with wine or beer
Everything and nothing.
or non-alcoholic beverages. With your host, Skye Collett.
And Sean, stupid bitch, drunken Hipkins.
Yes, it's true. I have been at an event just prior to this.
It's a double recording, people. We have to record twice, and Bino's already slurring his words.
Well, I'm taking myself slow by just having a beer for this episode.
This is
And
going to be commuting.
A Tui's Extra Dry, which is also known as a Ted in our country. And it's delish. But what are you, pray tell, drinking, you stupid bitch, Skye?
I'm also drinking a little Teddy. Fancy that. Look at us being twins. Beer of choice, of course. Still got loads left over from the old weekend.
Same. I'll be moving to a Heineken after this because we've run out of Teds after this one.
Just briefly discussing, I have some obligations tomorrow, so I'm going to leave my bottle of wine for the second podcast, not like other people on this podcast.
I'm also leaving my bottle of wine for the second episode. I've just drunk.
How many wines have you had? Have you been drinking beers all afternoon or wines?
Red wines. There was cheese. They were serving cheese.
Bino Hipkins.
They were serving cheese, and I need to have wine with cheese.
How many wines have you had? You lost count, didn't you, you stupid bitch?
Look, I'd say on average, probably at least 1.5 bottles, maybe 2. The jig is up.
Oh, God, help us all. Bear with us, listeners. Buckle down the hatches. You're in for a wild ride.
We had a dear staff member leave our workplace after working there for 16 years, and I've been in the workplace for 14, so it was a real emotional send-off. It was nice.
I'm sure you'll still stay in touch though, won't you?
Oh, totally. We've got like plans, like we're seeing her at a party next month and all that, but you know, you got to present yourself. And
talking about things coming up, we're going to see Macy Gray in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Woo! Not sure how many people who listen know who Macy Gray is.
Oh,
some of the young peeps may not.
What about I showed you the other week how she just released a new album.
Oh,
we need to listen to that.
I know. I have to.
Because you know she's playing a few of that.
You know, it takes a little while for things to sink in with me, so you just got to keep reminding
plugging in.
Then I'll go, oh yes, 2 days before we go to the concert, I'll download her whole album. Be like, yeah, oh yeah, I know this one song.
I hope she doesn't play all of her new shit.
They always do. They play the old, so she'll close with a couple of oldies. She'll probably start with one oldie, maybe, and then she'll do the bulk of it will be her new stuff.
Ick. That's annoying.
But it'll be worth it just for the couple of oldies.
Just to be able to say I saw Macy Gray. We both had that. Well, we both meant to be going to the same concert. Someone got pizza. We were both meant to be going to the same concert 20 years ago, basically, and she pulled out.
He means him and I, listeners.
Yes, as in we both. As in me and you.
Going to serve you any, baby, or keep it here?
Yeah, no, baby, I'm not eating right now. I'm podcasting.
Your message that you sent me makes so much more sense when you said to me, what time is it? Because he ran late, dear listeners. He was about probably 25 minutes late for our normal scheduled meeting time. And I got a message about 5 to 7 saying, I'm still 20 minutes away. And then I said, TikTok, bitch, TikTok, about 5 minutes ago. And his response was, what time is it? And I was like, what the fuck? You're obviously responding to me on your phone. So I was a bit confused at the message, and now it all makes sense.
Perfect sense. I didn't give Skye the heads up that I was going to pre-drinks. I did tell people at the thing as well. I was like, this is just like that Christmas party that one time I came home and Skye lived in Central Coast. And she's like, where the fuck are you? I was like, I'm coming. And then I fell off my chair. And then she said, sit in the chair and finish the podcast so we can get the fuck out of here.
I believe I yelled at you multiple times about being on your phone too. I was like, put that fucking phone away. Stop texting people. Bye. Love you.
Bye.
But yes, so how has your week been, you stupid drunk bitch?
Thank you for asking. The week has been good. So we got to actually finally see Tyler in all his glory in a football playing match. We've heard lots about it on the podcast.
Tyler is my husband for new listeners.
I reckon they all know who he is.
I was trying to do a bit. I thought it would be amusing, okay?
Amusing. And so Tyler's been playing football for years and years and years. And we've always heard when he's come home how well he's done. And we got to actually...
we met. That's how he tuned me.
He was coaching Skye's son.
Yes, it was many moons ago now, and slid into my DMs.
Slid right in there, and now they're married. And we watched him play, and they played against the Brisbane Hustlers, which is an all-gay rugby union team
who just returned from playing the Bingen Cup throughout Europe.
Bingen Cup, yes. So it was really cool. It was actually great. We went down there, we supported, we cheered for the gays silently and for the
Brought
Cyclones
the opposing
loudly.
team's stubby coolers.
Unknowingly.
Which you left here at our house too.
Thought we were supporting the team.
They're quite nice though, aren't they? Because Tyler goes to me, I said, oh, the boys, after all that, the boys left their stubby coolers here. And he was like, we're going to burn them. And I was like, oh, I think that's a bit much, isn't it? Calm down, we're not going to burn them.
Solidarity. But it wasn't so much the
game.
It wasn't so much the game that was the highlight of the night, but the debauchery that occurred afterwards. Such as, so Skye and Tyler, I don't know if this is a normal thing, but after a football game, a lot of players from the team come back to their house and we play beer pong.
That was we've had a couple of events where one or two people have come back, but we've never had that many people come back. We usually all drink at the premises after. So we usually bunker down and party. But most of those people who came live at Redland Bay, which for people who don't know is about probably 40 minutes away from where we live. But we've got
a long way.
A new grounds at the moment, which is just a couple of streets away from us. So we were like, it was freezing cold. They were turning the lights off on us, and we were like, party back at our place.
And which involves beer pong and a 4 a.m. departure.
I believe it was 4:30.
Well, for us, it was, yeah. We went on to have, after that, the most chillest of fucking weekends ever.
Oh, really? We went out again on Saturday night.
Yes, I know. Because you met the daughter-in-laws.
I went and partied with my son's girlfriend's family and her dad's mates, who were lots of fun. At one point, they said to me, oh, God, sorry, guys, are we being really offensive? And I was like, we've got a group of friends just like you.
You didn't see last night.
Yeah. Also, we were partying till 4:30 a.m. last night. This morning.
Yeah.
We had another 2 a.m. finish too, by the way, on Saturday night.
Wow.
So our weekend was not chill.
It was so nice just having the Saturday when you knew you didn't have anything we could chill out on the Saturday, which is usually our Sunday.
I know. It's so much better when you have a big night on the Friday and you have nothing on the Saturday. And then by Sunday, you're like, ooh.
You have no guilt. Then the Sunday, let's do the groceries.
Yeah, let's do the groceries. Let's cook up a storm today. Let's bake some muffins.
Yeah, love that. Love that.
I've got so much energy. I could do anything because I'm not hungover.
And the other thing we did, so midweek, we went to the new gay bar in West End, Brisbane, Queensland, Australia.
Before you go into your second story, because I don't want to go back to the football story, can I just add a little bit of flavour to that story?
Please do.
So you will find this absolutely fucking hilarious. So part of what Bina was talking about, we were playing beer pong, which is one thing that we all do quite often when we go to parties, and we're all very, 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 very competitive.
Yes.
We all like to think that we're the
Go
superstars
Hustlers.
when it comes to beer pong. And you and I can be quite a good team sometimes, depending on the evening, depending on the
No,
alcohol
to be
we've
fair, I
consumed.
think we're one to watch.
Yeah, we've won a few. We've annihilated a few
People
games
fucking
in our
dominate us
time.
at the beginning, and then we come back
And then we come, yes, we do.
all
we
over
do.
their back.
However, Bino had tapped out because he wanted to, mingle and socialize after we played a couple of games, which we weren't successful in. And then my son subbed in with me and we were playing. We'd played 1 or 2 games, weren't doing very well. And my husband and one of his good mates were on a bit of a winning streak. And I believe it was the 5th game.
What was his name? It wasn't Hugo, Adam. And he had an eye on him. Like he knew how to
he
fucking
was
beer
so
pong.
good, wasn't he? He was just exceptional.
He'd
He
pull his
warned
hand
me.
up and his eye would just turn to the thing like the Terminator.
Yeah.
And the ball would go straight in the cup.
It was exactly like that.
And you're like, fucking hell. Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, they were on a 5-game winning streak and they were just unstoppable. They were cocky as fuck and everyone wanted to bring them down, but no matter what we did, no one could bring them down. And then we were down to 1 cup each. Link and I, my son and I were 1 cup. Tyler and Adam were another cup. And Tyler just looked at me and goes, she's going to fucking get this. And then I just slotted it and got it and broke their streak, which was excellent.
It was a beautiful thing.
But during the week, I got home from work and Tyler was at football training. So this was on Tuesday night. Anyway, and I came in really late because I'd worked really late. I came in and I had a missed call from him, which I thought was really surprising because I knew he was at footy. And I was like, oh, some drama must be going down at football because he wouldn't ring me at this time when training's just about to start. And then I thought, and I tried to ring him back and he didn't answer. And I thought, oh, whatever. Anyway, in the meantime that I tried to ring him back, a voicemail dropped in. And I thought, oh, something's definitely fucking going down if there's a voicemail. So I opened the voicemail. I'm like, oh my God, it goes for 3 minutes. What is happening? So I press play and Tyler had accidentally butt dialed me.
Oh, I love this.
So he had butt dialed, voicemailed me, and it was him talking shit about Friday night and about how I busted their streak. So he was talking to a friend of ours, Bart, who was there early on. He stayed for a little bit but wasn't drinking, so he had to leave and drive home. Was telling him about how I'd won the winning shot, and I believe, to quote him, he said something along the lines of, it wasn't even a good shot. She did the shittest shot ever and she won the game.
Sounds like a perfect shot to me.
And then they went on to just talk blah 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 about how much fun they were having that night and blah 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 blah.
Were you on the other end of the phone listening, going,
I listened to the whole thing. I listened to the whole thing because I said to Tyler, I was waiting for you to start talking even more shit about me.
Yeah, I love that.
Of course, he would never talk shit about me. It was all in good humor, but I thought it was hilarious. And as soon as it happened, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to tell Bino. I was like, oh, I'll do it on the podcast. And then you said to me, oh, we'll talk about football on the podcast. I was like, perfect.
I was slad right in there.
Anyway, I interrupted your other story.
Oh, that's all right. The other one is a real quick one. So there's a new bar that's opened in West End, Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, called Come to Daddy. So Vinny and I celebrated our 14 years together.
Already love the name.
I know, me too. And at this new gay bar, or should I say all-inclusive gay bar.
So the times, come on.
And I
be more progressive than that, please.
Is totes gay vibes, but it was great. We went there and what was I gonna say?
Came to Daddy.
Oh yes. So Come to Daddy, and they've got this little neon sign that's mounted right behind where we sat, and it says Come to Daddy, but it flashes, so it goes Welcome to Daddy, and then the next flash it takes out the WEL and says Come to Daddy. And I said to Vinny, oh, isn't that cool how they've done that? And he goes, oh, I just thought that was an electrical fault. I was like, no, you dumb bitch.
I probably would have said the same thing. I wouldn't have been paying attention at all. I would have been like, why is it flickering like that?
But it's actually really cool. It's like a 10-minute walk, 7-minute walk from our house.
Oh,
We're going to take you there.
oh, you guys have the best location. I would
It's
love
so
to
good.
live that close to everything like you guys
It was an absolute must have after living in London. Wherever I lived after that, I need to walk to a pub. I need to walk to a
yes.
bakery. I need to walk to a shop.
Yes. A good bakery too. It needs to be a really good bakery.
Yes.
That's
So how's
super
your week
important.
been, you stupid bitch?
My week has been good. I talked about one of the things that I wanted to talk about already, which was the butt dial from my husband. And do you know when it happened on Maths? Do you remember that when it happened on Maths this season?
Yeah.
Married at First Sight.
Yeah.
And they were recorded talking shit about their wives, and it happened, and everyone was sort of saying, is it real? Did it happen?
Did they actually butt dial?
Did they actually butt dial? Was someone just been bitching behind their backs and stuff like that? And I remember when I saw it, I totally thought it was completely made up, because I was like, how could you accidentally call someone and then voice record it in a crowd in the club where you could hear what was actually being said? And then it happened to me. I was like, oh, does happen.
I understand now. I understand completely.
I mean, he wasn't in a club, but he was on a crowded football field with a bunch of dudes talking. So, it does happen. So sorry, Maths people, for not believing you. Still could have been made up though, but it does legit happen. I can testify to that. But the only other thing I want to talk about, and I meant to talk about this the other week in the podcast, I talked about my obsession with reading lately and all the books that I've been buying. But I forgot to give you the challenge, which is the reading challenge that I want to give you. Starting from the 1st of July. So listeners, I have read 14 books so far this year. How many books have you read, Sean Bina Hipkins?
Can we just elaborate? So you've read 14 books in how many months?
Since January.
So you've been an avid reader since January.
1 week, a couple of weeks ago, I read 3 books in 1 week. I'm not even
impressive.
lying. Tyler will vouch for me.
I've read none.
I know.
I'm gonna start reading next week.
But that's why I'm issuing you with a challenge. From the 1st of July,
all right,
I am challenging you. Let's see how many books we can read. So I'll forget about all the books I've read this year so far. I'm going to just start fresh. I was actually going to challenge you for this whole year, but I thought that's not fair because I've read so many books. That's bitchy.
That's what me challenging you against how many TV series I've watched.
Well, yeah, I haven't watched, and I've watched a lot of reruns. So
Ooh.
you would definitely beat me if it was a race to see how many true crime shows has been watched this year. You would absolutely win.
Decimate.
I haven't watched any. But so from the 1st of July, which is Monday, not Monday coming, the Monday after.
Yep.
I challenge you to try to beat me in however many books you can before December 31st. We'll have 6 months.
Right. Let's not make it how many you can beat me in reading. Let's just say I challenge you to
read 10 books.
Yeah, okay, cool.
10 books before the end of the year.
All right, perfect.
But then we'll also do a tally of who read the most.
Can I start reading next week, even though it's before the 1st of July, and count that? Or
you know what? I'll give that to you.
I'll
absolutely give you an extra
Bless
week.
your heart. I need a little kick up.
And then we will give updates in the podcast about how we're going on our reading challenge. I have already started a post that will say the books that I've read to date this year. Then I'll finish that post up.
Yes.
On our socials, and then we'll start a fresh one going book versus book versus book versus book.
Perfect, because that one will come in at the end of June anyway, won't it? Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. So it'll be what I've read. I've already written that post. So it'll be what I've read this year, and then we'll start fresh the challenge, and we'll watch the numbers go up. And
I see what you've done there. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, I agree. I accept your challenge.
I feel very clever. I do.
Well, you are clever.
Oh, shucks. Thanks.
You're a real smart bitch.
You're also clever. You savage.
Stop it.
We've been speaking so much shit. You might have to cut a bit of this out, man. We haven't even started.
We're still going well.
anyway, that's
So tell
how
me
my
how
week
clever
has
I am.
been. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots.
All right.
All
So
right, so
should
you're
we get
ready to
into the
go.
true
Have you
TC?
tried to behave yourself this week and not do something that's going to completely have me rocking in a corner like last week? Oh, it was 2
So
weeks
I
ago
had to
now.
switch mine around because the one that I had planned for next recording is less traumatic than the one that I had planned for this week. So I've switched it around. But the one for next recording is pretty tragic, but it's not too bad. It's not like the one that I did with the Australian one. This
Okay.
one's good. You'll like this.
Okay. Well, I had one of the girls at work come up to me today and say she's obsessed with the true crime ones and was giving me ideas of ones that I could do. And she actually gave me a really good Australian one, but she was saying she loves the gruesome one and she thought it was hilarious that I gave you an ultimatum. Hi, Taylor, if you're listening, I guarantee
that
you
was
probably will be in
hilarious.
2
Yeah.
weeks. But she was like, when I was saying I can't do any more gruesome ones, she's like, I love the gruesome ones. And I'm like, ew.
Ick. I also had a friend, hi Kim, say that the true crime ones are the ones that everyone loves, and yeah, she liked the gruesome, but she also loved yours too. Also, I had feedback about the Australian movie one, iconic movies.
Oh yeah.
Rachel, hi Rachel. She said she was mowing a lawn and she had to stop and just cack herself laughing about the shit that I gave you about Paperback Hero.
Yeah, you were fucked.
She said, Skye didn't say anything. It's not often she doesn't say anything. She didn't say anything when you shut her down. And I was like, oh, good. She goes, I often laugh at your podcast, but that one really had me cracking.
I've had a bit of feedback from people pissing themselves about it, and people saying, I can't believe you haven't seen Priscilla Queen in the Desert. I'm like, it's on the list. It's on the list.
All right. So I'm doing the case of Leslie Bradshaw and Penny Waldroup, aka the murder on Kimsey Mountain.
Oh, I haven't heard of this one.
It's one I watched recently on one of our fave true crime series.
Oh, Nightmare. What is it? What, Waking in Your Nightmare or something?
Oh no, that's oh God, what's that one? Something about nightmares.
Real life nightmare or something, or
this one's called No One Can Hear You Scream.
Oh.
And let me tell you, there's some fucked up cases in this series, but this is from episode 1, season 1. Leslie and Penny lived in the small and very rural town of Meigs County in Tennessee with their families. The two mothers were the best of friends and would always hang out together at Leslie's home. Another friend of Leslie's, named Dotchie Latham, had heard loads about Penny through Leslie and was keen to meet her. And when they finally did meet, the three women all started hanging out together. Just like backyard stuff, you know, like they're in a small rural town, come around to my house, chill out, we've got a barbecue, rah, rah. Now, before all that, Penny met her future husband, Brad Waldroup, when they were both teenagers. They fell in love, got married, had 4 kids together. And then over the years, Brad had become very controlling with Penny, which turned into him abusing her physically.
Oh, I think I know this one now.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. It's one I hadn't heard of until I'd watched the No One Can Hear You Scream. Your Worst Nightmare. That's the series.
That's it.
Yeah. So when this would happen, when he'd start getting abusive physically and verbally with her, Penny would take the kids out of the house and go and hang at Leslie's home. So she had 4 kids with him. The kids would call the place the safe haven. On some occasions, Brad would turn up to the house and try and bully Penny around. But her friend Leslie didn't give a shit about Brad and wasn't scared of him at all. So she would stand up to him and be in his face until he'd back off and leave them alone while they were still at Leslie's house. I'm sounding super drunk right now, aren't I?
So drunk.
There were occasions when Dotchie, the third friend, was over at Leslie's house at a party and Brad would go nuts and he would start grabbing Penny by the hair and just being an overall abusive asshole, and Leslie would have to step in and tell them to fuck off, go home, chill the fuck off, chill the fuck out. And of course, Brad hated Leslie because of this, because he had no control over her, or he had no power over her, and she literally just didn't give a fuck who he was, and she wouldn't cower to him. Over time, it all becomes a bit too much for Penny, and in the summer of 2006, she had had enough of his abusive, manipulative, and controlling ways. And after one severe round of abuse and a flood of, I'm sorry, she decided it was time. She wasn't going to forgive him and take him back. And she stood up for herself and kicks him out and files for divorce. Her friend Leslie helps her with her proceeding of filing for divorce and all this shit. And Brad then moves into his grandmother's house in the Kimsey Mountains, which is about an hour and a half drive, which is about an hour and a half drive, which is about an hour and a half drive from where Penny lived.
Lindy Chamberlain.
That's Lindy Chamberlain. The grandmother's house was in an area that was super isolated. So to get to it, you had to go up dark and windy roads. There was no service after a certain point going up to the fucking place to get
I'd
there.
love
That
to live
kind
in a
of
place
shit.
like that.
Yeah, no, unless
You were
you
getting
were Leslie.
murdered.
Unless you were Leslie or Penny. So as you could imagine, old Brad wasn't too happy about the divorce, and he would constantly threaten Penny with abuse, threats he was going to make her life a living hell, and of course that he would kill her if he couldn't have her. No one could, kind of shit. How much does that annoy the fuck out of you? Like when there's somebody that comes out of a relationship and when they break up with someone, and like it's usually generally men that we hear about this shit, and they'll say, if I can't have you, no one can have you. I get love is hard, but like that's not love. It's just all about control. And it's the same with people killing spouses and families and then themselves. It's like just kill yourself and don't kill anyone else. Like if you're going to go down that road
or route will do it in this situation.
Why would you fucking it just annoys the fuck out of me. And you?
Totally. Yeah. Yes, totally.
You are also on the same page.
Yes. Just listen. Yes, agree very much. Yes, it's very spiteful.
It's so annoying.
And also a story as old as time.
Oh, it's so frustrates me so much when you see all these true crime series and shit like that, and then they kill her, they kill the children, then they kill themselves. Just cut to the chase, kill yourself. If you're going to do it anyway, no one should die. But if you're going to do it anyway, just fucking blow your own brains out, you fucking wanker.
And it's when they kill the kids too that kills me. I'm just like, seriously, what kind of piece of shit
are you? Anywho, they agreed that they would co-parent the 4 kids. And on the 13th of October that year, 2006, it was Brad's weekend to have the kids, which meant that Penny would have to drive the kids up the long and windy roads to where Brad lived now to drop the children off. The friend Dotchie that I mentioned earlier, she had agreed that she would stay at Leslie's house and look after Leslie's kids while her friends went on their mission to Brad's to drop off Penny's kids to Brad. Because of the hostility, the friends
so Leslie
had
went with her. Leslie
went
there
with
for
her. Because Leslie didn't give a fuck about Brad.
Yeah,
She's like, fuck off, you fucking wanker.
And Penny probably felt a little bit protected when she had Leslie
totally
sat next to her.
Because Leslie didn't give a fuck about Brad's shit. Because of the hostility the friends had already witnessed firsthand with Brad, and because of the threats he was making to Penny, the friends agreed that if Dotchie hadn't heard from them by 7:30 p.m., she would call the police.
Oh, okay. Good plan. I like that.
Yeah. Remember, you'll love Dotchie. Like, if you ever watch this episode of it, you watch Dotchie and you're just like, God, you're a fucking soldier of a friend. So remember there was no service after they got to a certain point heading into
So
the
was
mountains.
it was it Penny and Leslie friends first, or was
Penny
Dotchie
and
the one that
Leslie-
came in and became their friend later?
Penny and Leslie were friends, and then Penny
Dotchie
would
came
take
into
her
it.
children to Leslie's house, but Leslie and Dotchie were friends before that, and she'd heard about Penny, and she was like keen to meet her. And then when she
Right.
finally met Penny, she was like, "Oh yeah, this bitch is cool. I love this. I get why Leslie loves her so much."
Gotcha.
So they became a whole fucking group. So remember, there was no service after a certain point heading into the mountains.
Yep.
So it would have just been that whole waiting game for Dotchie at the house. Dotchie was a nervous wreck as she watched her friends drive off to Brad's because she knew about the whole
So
shit
they
that
were
was
all
going
really
on.
scared then, weren't they? If Penny had
They
to take
knew-
Leslie with her and Dotchie was freaking out,
They
like
knew that there was
they
fucking
knew that it was a big deal. Like he was capable
Exactly.
of some extreme shit.
Exactly. And so Dotchie watched them depart. She was a nervous wreck. And the three women had also agreed that they would stay in constant contact every 30 minutes
Until
to
the
an
service
hour,
like broke out. Until there was no
considering the
service.
time zone that they'd be out of service. So like they'd keep sending her messages. Yep, we're here, rah, rah. They'd drop the kids off. Then they'd come back down the mountain. Hey, we're here. We're on our way back. Rah, rah.
Yeah.
So you could imagine, as you just said, the fear that they must have had already instilled in Brad if they were doing and planning all this shit. And like, oh, I don't even know what that must feel like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and then they've got a mother of their children doing the right thing by co-parenting. Here's the deal. Rah, rah, rah. So anyway, all's going well. They're staying in contact until they get to the point that there's no service. But by 7 p.m., Penny, Leslie, and the kids have arrived at the home in Kimsey Mountain. When they get there, Brad comes walking out of the house to greet them, holding a rifle, drunk as a skunk. When he comes up to the car, Penny tells the kids, "Go on, kids, get into the house and wait for them there while Daddy and her have a chat."
It's not like Australia. I mean, we've got some horror stories here, but I guess, if you rock up to someone's house and they've got a gun and they're pissed as a fart, you can turn right around and go straight to the police station and be like, "Yo, I tried to take my kids up there to see their dad, but this is what I was faced with."
What happened?
You
And
know?
it sort of shows what sense of normality it must have been. Oh, here he is again.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
They'd seen it 1,000 times before.
Exactly, yeah. So the kids go inside and hear a disagreement starting between the dad and their mum and her friend. And I mean, I know it was probably safer for the kids to have been in the house at that point, but what are you going to do? So she sent the kids into the house. She's got the kids out of danger, like immediate danger.
Yeah.
And then there's this argument happening. So what are you going to do? Like,
where was it? Where was it again? What state?
Tennessee.
And see, people having guns in Tennessee, again, this is a huge assumption because I've not been to America and I don't really know, but
Sounds natural.
It's quite natural, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like people going around with guns because they do that kind of thing over there. Here, that would be like, whoa.
Totally.
You can't fucking have a gun around my kids. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Spin around.
So again, if she'd gone to the police and said, "Hey, he's got a gun," they'd be like, what, is it licensed? Or he can do whatever he wants.
I'm shooting rabbits. Yeah.
So you couldn't just be like, "I'm taking them."
Yeah, exactly.
Because he had a gun.
Yeah. So, and she's also thinking, fuck, he's got a gun. Kids, get in the house. We'll sort this shit out. I've dealt with this 1,000 times. You know what I mean? So anyway, the kids go into the house. But again, so when the dad's coming up there with a shotgun, a rifle, do you leave the kids and turn around? No, you don't. Like, what the fuck do you do in that situation?
Are you really going to ask me that way?
Annie,
I helped you out.
An argument then ensues between Penny and Brad. He grabs the keys out of the car, out of the ignition, and he throws them across the yard or the lawn or whatever it is when you're in a big mountain house. He just throws them across the fucking yard. Leslie then basically tells Brad to stop being a fuckhead, and Brad loses it and starts screaming at and cussing at the two women. Penny's son, Elijah, who's in the house, hears all the commotion and sneaks a peek out the window. And as he does, he sees Brad then pull the rifle out and shoots at Leslie, who's still in the passenger seat of the car. And he shoots her and he fires again, blowing her out of the car onto the ground. And he goes on to shoot her 8 times. Frantic now,
Where was
Penny.
the grandmother that had the house?
No,
Or
she
did
wasn't
she
there.
didn't live there. It was just her house.
It was just her house. So then when that happens, Penny gets out her driver's side car, runs around to Leslie from the other side and tries to wake her. And she's like, come on, get up. We have to go. We have to go. But
She's been shot 8 times.
Leslie's been shot 8 times and she's not waking up.
Jesus.
So Penny then, when he starts walking around the car, Penny then fucking legs it towards the woods. And as she's running for the woods, he shoots her. And shoots her in the back, and she flies down onto the floor. She was able to get up and start walking again and try and run again, and he shoots her again. He fires until he runs out of bullets in his rifle. Penny's now trying to crawl away as he strides over to her, and he grabs her and drags her to a nearby creek. He then picks up a machete that he had, and he starts hacking at her. So he starts fucking driving the machete into her. She's putting up her hands, trying to block the fucking blows as the machete's coming down. And the kids can see all this happening, by the way. So they're in the house hysterical.
Could the kids see it?
They're watching out there, just watching this shit happening, and they're hysterical, crying and screaming.
And were they little? How old were the kids?
So the kids were all probably like 12 and under. And they're watching their mum being attacked by their dad with a blunt machete. So Penny's trying to defend herself from the blows with the hands and arms, and she loses the pinky finger in the process. So meanwhile, back at Leslie's home, Dotchie, the friend, she knows something bad is happening because she's not getting her calls in.
Yeah.
So she actually says...
So it must have been a small distance from where the signal went off to the house. Like it mustn't have been too far.
Probably
so she
30
must have been
minutes or
expecting
something.
them to be contacting.
She was waiting for the response, yeah.
Yeah.
And so in the special that we saw, and this is... And like when you watch the special, like, you know, people might have their own fucking perceptions about shit and shit. But when you're watching, like, it'll make sense when I say this. So when you're watching it, Dotchie knows something bad has happened, and she actually says that when Leslie is shot, she kind of, when she was at the house, she had this feeling where she kind of blacks out, and she comes to and she sees what Leslie sees, where she's looking under the bottom of a car and sees Brad's feet, and she feels that the wind's been taken out of her. And that's when she knew
had like a bit of a vision.
She had a vision, and she knew Leslie was dead. So she said she felt this thing. She saw it like laying down, looking under the car, and then the wind going out of her, and she felt that Leslie was dead. So she calls the police straight away. She calls the police and she says, you need to do a welfare check at this place. And then she was saying it to them, gave them the history of everything, that the police weren't, she felt that the police weren't taking her seriously. You know, the whole, we'll get someone out there as soon as we can. We don't have any patrol cars in the area at the moment.
When was it? 2006, did you say?
2006. But Dochi ain't no wallflower either. So she calls the dispatcher every 15 minutes because she's not hearing from her friends in this time. So she's calling them every 15 minutes to check the status of her friends and the requests of the welfare check.
Yeah, yeah.
And they just keep pushing her off and pushing her off.
No.
And she's fucking losing her mind at this stage because she hasn't heard from her friends as per their plan. And they aren't back at the time they were meant to be and all this shit. And the police just keep saying, we'll send someone out when an officer becomes available. So back to Penny. Brad has tried now at this stage to cut her throat with the machete, but it's not working because it's so blunt. So imagine being cut and hacked at with a blunt fucking weapon. Ick.
After being shot.
Yeah, twice in the back. So he drags her back into the house where the kids are now all cowering in the living area. He tells her to say goodbye to her kids. Elijah, the son, goes on to say afterwards that he thought they were all going to die that day. Seeing his mum all cut up and bloody was something straight out of a horror movie.
Oh my God.
The kids are freaking out. The mum is doing her best just to try and protect them and calm them all down and all this shit. So, like, you know, like the kids are all fucking erratic behind her. And she's in there like, no, 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 it's fine, it's fine. And she probably all thought they were all going to die that day as well. You know, like one of those things, just hold on to me, rah, 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 it's fine. She probably all thought they were going to die. She's doing her best to protect him. And the father is saying shit like, I'm doing the devil's work and that I'm the devil to the kids and shit like that. So you could imagine they're all under 12, how fucking terrifying and fucked up that would have been. Any hurt. The kids must have just been, what the actual fuck? That's my note. Penny's confused as fuck by now about what's going on, and she's able to convince Brad to get the kids to allow him to let the kids to go to their room. Just get out of immediate harm's way and all this shit.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Out of this
She's fucking on her last legs anyway, so at
she'll
least
do what she
focus
can
it
do
on
with
me.
Exactly. So she convinces him to let them to go to their room, and she starts to submit to him. She's like, hey, baby, you don't have to do this. You know, we can make it work again, rah, 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 you know, all that type of shit to try and make him succumb to the fact that, you know, I'm here, we can do this, it can happen, blah, blah, blah. Brad then takes Penny into the bedroom for one last, you know, and sexually assaults her. Penny said during that time, she just went in and out of consciousness and was just running on adrenaline. So she'd pass out, come back in again, and he was assaulting her.
She's been shot twice, been beaten, and she's
Hacked.
lost a finger.
Hacked the fuck out of. And during that time that was happening, where she was passing and coming in and out of consciousness, Brad just laughed throughout the whole ordeal. During this time, the daughter then calls out at one point, there's someone at the front door. The police had finally arrived.
Oh my God, thank God.
Penny uses this as her chance to escape. So Brad is standing at the front door to see who's in their yard, and Penny just pushes past him and goes running to the cop screaming. The cop is relatively new to the force because he's just doing a welfare check. And he's come up alone. It's just this one person.
Oh,
and he's freaking
silly
out.
Boy.
He's freaking out when he sees Penny and the state in what she's in. And he gets her in the car and he goes to drive off. And Penny's like, you can't. My kids are still in the fucking house. I'm not leaving my kids. And the cop's like, the fuck? What the fuck? And he starts calling up for backup. And at that point, Brad's walking towards them in the car with his gun in his hand. And you're like, when you're watching the special, you're just like, what is going on? This poor fucking rookie cop is about to get his face blown off. But he walks down to the car, and this is when you think all hell's going to break loose. But he seemingly just gives up. He puts his hands up in the air and he surrenders. Other police officers start to arrive after he's called for backup, and ambulances, of course. And as they're all helping Penny to the ambulance, Brad's still screaming to her, I'm going to fucking, as he's being put into the police cars, that he was going to fucking kill her and he was going to kill the kids next. So at this stage, Dotchie, the friend that's down the fucking mountain, she still has no idea what the fuck's going on. And she keeps calling the police for updates. Finally, they advise her that Penny and the kids are okay.
Well, are they?
But her friend Leslie had passed away.
Oh,
and she's
my God.
obviously devastated. She's fucking mortified. Brad is charged with first-degree murder and attempted murder. Now you're going to love this. As in not fucking love it at all. So think Twinkie defense from Milk.
Oh.
So during the trial, a forensic psychiatrist testified that Brad had the MAO-A or warrior gene, which caused him to be violent, that he couldn't help himself. So basically they're saying that from years ago, when humans were nomads or whatever, and men would instinctively be a warrior because that's how they survived, that's what he had that was still in him, and it wasn't his fault. Like, fuck right off.
You're fucking not serious, are you?
I'm totally serious. So Brad was found guilty of attempted murder, kidnapping, and voluntary manslaughter. He was sentenced for 32 years, which of course left everyone fucking outraged, including Leslie's families. Like, fuck that. If he's got this supposed gene, then why should he not be in for life anyway? Like,
Yeah.
it's constantly going to be a danger
Why
to
shouldn't he be fucking
society.
sedated for the rest of his life if he's,
Exactly. If he's got
a
this gene that they've
danger?
used to make it, it's not his fault that he killed them. He's just an angry person. Then why should he should be out in society? Anyway, he got 32 years. In the aftermath, Penny created the Leslie Helping Hands organization,
Oh.
helping domestic violence victims in honor of a friend. Penny and her kids are terrified of the day that Brad could potentially be released. And remember, that was 2006. We're now 2024. So
Mm,
that's 18 years. He could be
mm.
gone in 14 years. He'd be out.
Oh
And that,
my
my stupid bitch,
God.
is the case of Leslie Bradshaw and Penny Waldroup, aka the murder of Kimsey Mountain.
Oh, poor Leslie. She was just trying to be a good friend.
And she was such a cool friend. That's what I love about it. It's like she was just there going, like, Brad would come around literally. So in the special we saw, Brad would come around to her house and literally grab fucking Penny by the hair and try and pull her back and stole her shit. And she'd be out there fucking fisticuffs with fucking Brad saying fuck off and all this shit.
Mm.
And then he ended up fucking shooting her. But what about poor old Dotchie? She knew what was going on too.
You'd just take off, wouldn't you? If you had that kind of psycho person in your life, you'd just like run to the other side of the country. You'd
I
go as
just think
far away as you could.
I just don't know, like how, like, because when they had shared custody of the children, if she's like, oh, they need to know their dad. She was very young. They were teenagers when they met. She had 4 kids probably by the time she was 30.
Yeah.
So she probably thought she was doing the right thing and all
Yeah.
this shit. And it's all right. I worry about the day that we're both going to go, that's my true crime that you're doing right now.
I know, but we usually we don't really say the true crime, do we? Sometimes we do.
Maybe the Australian ones, but that's usually it.
I've got a really good Australian one, I think. I haven't properly looked at it, but someone told me about it today and it's going to be good. Okay.
Yeah, I got told today as well at the drinks. She's like, have you done the Redlands true crime? I'm like, what one?
Not the prostitute one that we've talked about.
And then I
Bambi.
started talking about the prostitute one. She's like, what's that one? So I must have to do that next.
I've tried to look for it heaps, but you're a better researcher than me. So maybe you could get more information than I could.
I'll give it a crack.
I do have some anecdotes from that time because I remember what happened vividly.
Me too.
Okay, ready?
So what do you think about that? Shit, fucking Brad. What a cunt.
Oh, he's the worst. It's horrible. I hate the domestic violence ones too.
Me too.
Because it's just so senseless and like...
That is exactly correct. It's just so senseless and it just baffles my mind. Like, why are you still so obsessed? They've said they're not into you. Why are you being such a fucking power-hungry cunt? Just fucking
I get it.
go.
I get when a relationship breaks down, it's hard. And sometimes it takes a few years to get over it, even if it, didn't end viciously. But some people just have those tendencies.
Totally.
In them
I get that.
just
but
go really fucked up.
I get that people can be hardcore to let go, but these people that when they're broken up for 3 years and they're still harassing their ex, they're not out there not sleeping with anyone.
Yeah.
They're still having their life.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt, but they just can't. It's a power trip as well.
Yeah, it just annoys
It's
the
like
fuck
they
out of me.
can't be okay because they chose to end it and they don't want to be with them. They can't get past that.
It annoys the fuck out of me.
Get over yourself.
Yes.
Totally. But it's not as simple as that. And it is seriously like I was listening to this week's podcast today. Actually, I finished it. And just hearing, the rape one, the Peter Dupas and all the things that he did. And then he killed 3 women, but how many signs there were before that. It's the same with domestic violence. Do you know what I mean? Like there's so many signs and there's these, DVOs and AVOs, and then they're forced by the court to hand the
we're really
children
restricted
over.
about what we can do right now because he hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
As a crime.
Yeah. But I do understand that there's a fine line sometimes because you can't just take one person's word over the other. But when there's a series of incidents that have witnesses and there's certain things, it's like, you know what? Actually, you're acting really nuts.
Let's just watch him a bit more.
We need to actually watch it. But then again, how many people are out there in a domestic violence situation where they're acting nuts and they've split up? How many we don't have enough cops to sit there and watch every single psycho partner who makes threats, because sometimes those threats don't follow through. So I get that part. I get you can't always watch them. But I think when there's a history,
there are definite signs.
There needs to be much heavier penalties, even if it's something silly like showing up to someone's work and abusing them out the front. Like, that's not normal behavior. Yes, chalk it down to being like, hey, you were emotional, but dude, you can't do that.
You're on our radar.
Yeah, you can't. Well, I mean, even when they're on the radar, they do nothing. So it needs to be like they need to actually have harsher penalties for that kind of behavior.
Well, they need to, because look at all the fucking shit that goes down because of that same stuff that you're talking about. Yeah. Bitch. What have you got for me, Skye? I'm very intrigued because I have no idea what you're doing.
I actually think you will quite like this one. I don't. It's horrible.
What country?
But I feel it's America.
Oh, it's always, good.
Close America. I had actually, because you know how we talked about the other week about how hard sometimes it is to get Australian ones? I've had quite a few good Aussie ones come up this week that I'm like, but I feel like I've got to keep my Aussie to the Aussie week, because otherwise I'm using all my good Aussie content and it's not being recognised as being Australian. It's getting bundled into,
I appreciate that,
free for all. So I've got a few good Aussie ones coming up, but okay, so you ready? The kidnapping of Colleen Stan. On May 19th, 1977, Colleen Stan
what a good year.
Old year. Colleen Stan was heading to a friend's birthday party in Northern California. Eager to celebrate with friends, she made a regrettable error in judgment by hitchhiking from her home in Eugene, Oregon. We talked about hitchhiking last week, or last true crime, we were like, and you told your story about getting in the car and being made to sit in the front.
Yeah, it was drinking a beer.
Yes. It's just such a... Kids, if you're listening, don't hitchhike ever.
Yeah.
We've got Uber now, so you know.
Is this the girl in the box?
Maybe.
I'll cut that out.
It's okay. You can say it's. I'm going to go straight into it pretty much anyway.
Go.
Colleen believed she had a good sense of danger. She had let several offers of rides pass her by because she didn't like the look of the people who were offering her a lift. But then she did accept a lift from Cameron Hooker and his wife, Janice, lured into their blue van car after sighting their other passenger, a small baby.
Oh, okay. And because the fact that the woman was in the car as well, you'd think.
Of course. Safety. Reminds me again of the Bernies, remember? That's how all the girls always got into the cars, because the girlfriend was in there, or the wife, And
that was
Catherine
like that
Bernie.
chick in
Picton. Yes. She said, she was in the car.
Are you going back? And she's like, yeah, I will.
Sometimes women can be equally as evil as men. It's not as common, but they can be just as brutal. So yeah, but I can see why you think, oh, it's a husband and wife and it's all baby.
Yeah.
I'll be fine. It was the 70s.
Yeah.
When they stopped at a gas station along the way, Colleen went to use the toilet. A voice, and I want to talk about this bit after I go through it. A voice told me to run and jump out a window and never look back, she recalled. This is Colleen. But she calmed her fears and went back to the car. How crazy is that? You know, when you get that sixth sense and it's like, And
luckily, we've never been in that situation where you've had to have that much of a sixth sense. But when you have that sixth sense, you usually follow it.
But just like you were talking about, what was her name again? Dochi.
Yeah.
She had a vision. She knew that something bad had happened. Around 20 minutes into the ride, Cameron pulled off the highway. It was at this point, Colleen said, that Janice, the wife, got out of the car and went down to the lake with the baby. They were playing when Cameron got into the back seat and held a knife to my throat. He tied me up and placed a box over my head. This wooden head box was locked and designed to prevent light, sound, and fresh air from entering. Colleen then experienced 7 years of horror as the Hookers held her in their home in Red Bluff, California, as their sex slave in a case the FBI claims is unparalleled to anything seen or documented across history.
Yeah.
Janice Hooker was eventually granted immunity from prosecution in exchange for testimony, while Cameron
And that's
Hooker,
a wife. Yeah.
that's the wife. While Cameron Hooker was found guilty on multiple charges and sentenced to 104 years in prison, but more on that later. Colleen's case has received international publicity and has been the subject of multiple books, films, and television series. More on that later. Before the kidnapping, Cameron, then a lumber mill worker, and his wife Janice had reached an agreement that he could capture a slave to take Janice's place, because up until that time, Cameron had been using Janice to act out sexual bondage. There was to be no penetrative sex with Colleen, according to the agreement, but this later changed. On the first night of her kidnapping, Colleen was strung up by her hands, physically attacked by Cameron, and left blindfolded and suspended while the husband and wife had sex below her.
So she had zero vision. What do you call that type of stuff?
She was always blindfolded or in a
Yeah.
box. After her kidnapping, Colleen stated that she was tortured and kept locked in a box 23 hours a day until she was given a contract and forced to sign herself into slavery for life in January 1978. In view from the box, propped up against her purse under the bed, was a photo of Marie Elizabeth Spinnaky, a previous victim whose body was never found.
Oh, wow.
So they put the photo up just to remind her of
This
what
could
would
be
happen
you.
to her
Yeah.
if she didn't comply. She further stated that Cameron led her to believe that she was being watched by a large, powerful organization called the Company, which would painfully torture her and harm her family if she tried to escape. Colleen
And
subsequently...
how old was she when she got?
20.
Yeah.
20 when
So
they
she was
took
quite
her.
young. Yeah.
Colleen subsequently became a slave referred to as K, was forced to call Cameron master, and was not allowed to talk without permission. Cameron reportedly wanted Colleen to be like the female character in the 1954 French erotic novel Story of O, and soon started raping her, which consisted of oral rape. What is the erotic novel about, The Story of O? It's a French novel by French author Pauline Regie, published in 1954. It is an erotic novel that explores themes of dominance, submission, and sadomasochism. Sadomasochism. The novel is considered a classic in erotic literature and has been both controversial and influential. The plot follows a Parisian fashion photographer known only as O. She willingly becomes a slave to her lover, Renee, who takes her to a chateau in part of France. I can't pronounce it.
It's like a fucking 50 Shades of Grey type thing.
It is, where she is trained to be servant and obedient. The training involves a series of humiliations, beatings, and sexual acts intended to break her will and ensure her absolute submission. So that's what he was basing it on.
Yeah.
So Cameron did not want to have vaginal sex because he considered that to be a breach of that agreement that he had with his wife. Instead, he raped her vaginally and anally with implements. Following this, the Hooker family moved to a mobile home in Red Bluff,
What
where
a
Colleen...
name.
Red Bluff?
Hooker.
Oh, Hooker, yeah.
Yeah.
In Red Bluff, where Colleen was kept locked in wooden boxes under the couple's waterbed. In 1978, Janice gave birth to a second child on the waterbed, whilst Colleen was confined beneath them. Colleen credits her faith in God and belief in a chance of escape helped her survive.
You have to
Her-
have some faith in something at that point, don't
You'd
you?
have to.
Whether you believed in God or not, you'd just be like, please, whatever higher power,
I
get
just
me
can't
the
believe that
fuck
she
out
ever
of this.
gave up. Like, it would be so hard. Her greatest fear, which Cameron reinforced daily, was of the company. To avoid painful punishments, she tried to comply with his commandments, which later led her to being allowed to go out to jog, work in the yard, care for the family's children in the mobile home, and help him build bigger accommodations like an underground dungeon for more slaves.
God.
Even with an open door, neighbors, and a telephone, she made no attempt to escape. According to Colleen,
Out
her
of fear.
of the company kept her from seeking help.
Yeah.
Because she was in her early 20s, and he had said all these things and did all these despicable things to her. So he had proved what he was capable of.
He had totally made her submit. And it wasn't 2 years afterwards. This is fucking like 6 or 7 years afterwards, isn't it?
Well, we're still in the early stages. So what happened was he had her like locked up for a while. Then he started letting her out. Now we go, so we're about probably in the early years here, in the early part of the 7 years. Later, she was allowed to visit her family by herself in 1981. So he took her in 77, but did not reveal her situation due to her fear. So she did not reveal her situation due to her fear of the possible consequences because
they were going to die if she said anything, all this stuff. It was
they
so
would come after him.
Yeah.
And he had already done really brutal shit to her by
Yeah.
that point. So she knew what he was capable of.
Yeah. And she thought the company were going to kill her family.
Exactly. Yeah. And Janice kept up the facade as well. So Janice used to say the same thing. So it wasn't just him saying, oh, the company's this awful, they're these awful people and they're going to do this and this. Janice was saying the exact same things and telling her all these elaborate stories of what would happen to her.
She was like, fucking, I don't want him to do this to me again.
Mm-hmm.
It's better you than me.
Mm-hmm. Which is just fucked.
Toad's fucked.
Like, fucking sort your shit out,
She had
bitch.
options.
Go and tell someone.
She had options, yeah.
She's not blameless in this. I don't give a shit she was being
agreed.
terrorized before that. She should have done something.
She had options, yeah.
Her family thought she was involved in a cult because of her homemade clothes, lack of money, and absence of communication over the years. They didn't want to pressure her, fearing she would stay away forever. So imagine she's gone missing for like nearly 4 years, and then she just rocks up all of a sudden, healthy and seemingly alive.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, shit, okay, we thought she was dead, and she's come back to us. Okay, we're not going to, she's obviously
It was also a different time.
We're not
if that happened today, people would be like, you're not leaving, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. But you can also see, like, she was an adult. She could make her own choices.
Yeah.
So then the next day, they returned for a visit with her family. So she went there by herself the first time and, said she was fine, convinced them she was fine. But then she went back the next day with Cameron and he posed as her boyfriend. At the trial, Colleen explained that she was happy about visiting her family, who were therefore able to take a photograph of her and Cameron happily smiling together. You have to see this photo too. It is full on.
Do you know what the fuck thing about this all is?
They look blissfully happy in this photograph.
And the fuck thing about this all is because of the time as well, this all would have gone 100% against her.
Yeah, exactly. It totally would have.
Any court case or anything. Oh,
and they don't say a lot about the family either. They don't say a lot about the family. So you don't know if it was like, a family who were really involved or really knew their daughter or anything like that. They were just like, hey,
everyone was married off at 22 by that age as well.
This is where it gets bad again. The aftermath of this family visit, even though it went super successful for his purposes, like it couldn't have gone better. Nothing happened. The family weren't trying to find her or pressure her to come back or any of that, and they totally believed that they were together and they were boyfriend and girlfriend and never contacted the authorities. But after it, he began to fear that he'd given his slave too much freedom. So when he took her back to the mobile home, he locked her in a wooden box under his waterbed. She remained in the box 23 hours a day for the next 3 years.
Jesus Christ.
So they'd locked her up But she was under the bed most of the time. But then they started giving her freedom and she was looking after the kids and she could go for a jog and she could go outside. But after he went to take her to the family, even though it went super well and he was not in any danger, he freaked out and then made her life even worse. Her bodily functions were dealt by using a bedpan, which she positioned under herself with her feet.
Oh, God.
It was stated in court that Hooker's children, who she'd previously cared for, were told Kay had gone home. However, once his children had gone to bed, Hooker would take Colleen out of the box to feed and torture her. She was reportedly not allowed to make any noise and had to lie still for 23 hours at a time in the dark with little air to breathe.
God, how would you do that?
That's the worst part, I think. Like, I just can't imagine laying there for 23 hours in a box every day. And then when you do come out, you're just like, brutalized. It's so fucked up.
I mean, I like my sleep, but that's just quite chaos.
It's just so fucking rotten.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope you get what's coming to you, mate. I hope there's someone out there waiting for you to come to them when you die.
Yeah.
During the summers, conditions were especially harsh on her as the temperature in the box would rise to over 38 degrees Celsius.
She was there for 3 years doing that shit. Yeah. Jesus.
To feed herself, she ate scraps of food. It was not until 1983, so she went to visit the family in 81, right?
Yeah.
So in 83, that Colleen was reintroduced to the children and the neighbors. She was also allowed to get a job as a maid at a motel. Hooker wanted her to become his second wife, which was a turning point for Janice, the first wife. Janice confessed that starting with their first date, she had also been tortured, brainwashed, and referred to as a whore over the years by Cameron. Janice further stated that she survived their relationship by engaging in denial and compartmentalization. By August 1984, Janice began struggling with herself and went to Colleen in order to inform her that Hooker was not part of the company. However, she maintained that the organization did exist. I'm rolling my eyes right now.
Yeah, I know, total can't.
In a televised interview, Colleen told the interviewer that she then went to a bus station and phoned Hooker to inform him that she was leaving him and that he reacted by bursting into tears.
Boo her.
Boo fucking who?
She
then caught a bus home. In the months that followed, she did not contact the police, but continued to call Hooker regularly. She explained that this at the trial by saying that she wanted to give him, at Janice's request, a chance to reform.
Bless her cotton socks.
I get her perspective. Like, I totally understand it from her perspective because she had been brutalized for like 7 years at that point. And she didn't know any different. But the wife is like,
she had it going good for a while.
He was not a good-looking man. He was rotten.
But also she had this fucking carer that was trapped under her bed that would pop out every now and then when she needed her. Yeah.
And the only reason that the wife ended up doing anything was because she felt threatened.
Because she got the shits, yeah.
3 months later, Janice reported her husband to the police. She informed authorities that Cameron had kidnapped, tortured, and murdered Marie Elizabeth Spanicki, who had disappeared on January 31st, 1976. So they took Colleen in 77, January 77, but a year before, he had killed this other girl.
He tried to do something, and she probably didn't comply as much.
Authorities were unable to locate the remains of the woman. Due to lack of physical proof, no murder charge was brought. In the end, Hooker was sentenced to consecutive prison terms totaling 104 years for sexual assaults, kidnapping, and using a knife in the process. Originally eligible for parole until 2023, he has had his hearing date moved up 7 years to 2005 by California's Elderly Parole Program. On April 16th, 2015, his request for parole was denied and Hooker was eligible for another hearing in 2030. Well, he didn't kill her and they can't prove that he killed the other chick. So, your dude before actually killed someone and he got 32 less. Years.
Yeah. Well, he had the warrior gene.
Like, what the actual fuck?
Yeah, that's fucked up, isn't it?
So Colleen Stan has largely kept a low profile since her escape and recovery. She's chosen to live a private life, focusing on her family and personal healing. In various interviews over the years, she has expressed a desire to move forward and not be defined solely by her past trauma. She prefers to maintain her privacy and stay out of the public eye.
Which is interesting because there's lots of specials on this case,
So much.
including in Hey You, the streaming thing, Hey You, Hey You, where she's very vocally talking about her experiences.
Well,
It's probably a
occasionally
lot
she has
time.
participated in interviews and public appearances to share her story with the aim of raising awareness about the psychological impacts of captivity and abuse, as well as supporting other victims of similar crimes. She is believed to reside in California, although specific details about her location are not publicly disclosed for privacy and safety reasons.
But yeah, no, I mean, what a traumatic fucking thing to have gone through, to think that when you're locked under a bed for 23 hours a day, like what hour are you getting let out as well? It's
I think
obviously
you
when
would
the kids were
become
not there.
delirious and you would become someone who lives in a fantasy world as well.
Totally.
And
And
I think
survival mode.
when you get that 1 hour, even though you're being brutalized in that 1 hour, when you are confined, it's like solitary confinement, right? You
You've got
would
freedom.
be grateful for that moment that you're
It's
out.
freedom.
So it would
Yes.
shade everything. Your view on the world would be completely abstract. You would
You
just
probably
be
look
like,
forward to that
you
hour
would look
of
forward to
abuse.
getting out of the box, even though
Yeah.
it was going to be horrific. You'd be like, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
no, I've seen specials on this, and like the victim talking about it too, and she says like the head piece was like this perfectly constructed thing that blocked out her whole fucking vision.
you know, and I just think, you know, we talk about natural selection. Fucking take these pieces of shit out, man. Fucking
Totally.
get rid of them. Seriously.
Agreed. Chill out and
Cull
have a
them.
fucking barbecue.
Put them in car accidents and shit.
Yeah.
Fucking.
And then they find people that support this. You know, like you see a lot of fucking murder duos that go together. And then you've got this fucking dude who's got a woman who's obviously been probably abused by him for a while and just thought, fuck this, just project it to someone else. But she still supports it for years, 7 years.
She was still trying to reform him, and that's why they were working together almost to try to talk to him. And she was calling him every day after she had escaped. It's so full on.
Who?
Colleen was.
She
Colleen was calling him every day after she was out. So she wasn't the one who went to the police. Janice went to the police 3 months after her release. The wife did. So she was at home for 3 months. She'd gone, she'd taken off, and she was at home with her family and hadn't ratted on him at all. And she was calling him every day. Yeah. And trying to convince him to, you know, be better. And then I think Janice just went, fuck this. She's still talking to him every day.
That's my man.
I'm turning him in now.
That's some fucked up shit though, isn't it? On both sides.
It's so rotten. But in 2016, a television movie based on the case titled Girl in the Box, and you've just established that there's been so many types of shows, premiered on Lifetime. Guess who played Janice Hooker, the wife? Zelda Williams. Do you know who that is?
No, someone from Beverly Hills 90210.
No, it's Robin Williams' daughter.
Robbie Williams. Oh, Robin
Williams' daughter.
Oh, wow.
Zelda Williams is Robin Williams' daughter. I know. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
There's a 1993 song, Jennifer's Body by Hole. In their album Live Through This, it's speculated to be based on Colleen's experiences. This is mostly due to the lines in the song, he cuts you down from the tree, he keeps you in a box by the bed.
Wow, which is true.
There have been multiple...
Under their waterbed. And their waterbed was in like a...
in a trailer.
Trailer. Yeah.
There have also been multiple episodes of TV made based on Colleen's story, including Criminal Minds, The Ghost Whisperer, and Law & Order SVU.
Yeah,
as well
Jesus
as all the
Christ.
TV shows. I didn't want to list all the TV shows. There's so many shows
Well,
about
there's
it.
like on Hey You, there's literally one, the girl in the box, and it's got the chick who was in the girl in the box talking
Yeah.
to the camera.
Yeah, so there's documentaries, then there's movies, then there's like heaps of other, references throughout. But yeah, it's messed
Yeah.
up, isn't it? That
It's
poor
fucking
fucking
crazy.
woman.
And it's just so fucked up that back in that time of day that they were able to get away with this type of shit. I guess
know.
they still do.
Yeah.
I remember seeing some meme on Instagram or something where it's saying you drive down so many roads in your life. Do you know how many of those roads that you've driven down where someone's been held captive in a basement and you've driven right past their house?
Doing this podcast makes me think about shit like that, and I hate that
You
I have
still
to think
don't
about
lock your
stuff
front
like this.
door, you dumb bitch.
Yeah, because I live in a world where I try not to be scared by things.
I know, but like, lock your front door.
I want to see how old he is. Oh, he doesn't actually have. Because remember I said that they were trying to get him out because he was old as shit. So he was born 1953. So during COVID, they were trying to get him out based on him being super old. So what's
53. So it would have been 50 in 2003. And we're now 2024. So he would have.
Oh, okay, yeah. So he's in his.
He's like 71.
Oh yeah, okay, fair.
Maybe.
Yeah, roughly. I'm not going to do the maths because I've had, I'm on my fourth beer, so it's hard to
She's
say.
on her fourth beer, everyone, and we would like to thank you all for listening to this episode of Sean Beano Hipkins is pre-drunk and now super drunk and about to go into a third episode. A second episode.
Second episode. Oh my God, it's going to be a doozy.
But thank you for listening.
Stay tuned, people.
We're doing pop culture next, and it's all based on cults. And when I was doing
Which is basically a true crime episode again. I love how you've jigged that. I love how you've jigged it.
You agreed.
I agreed. Yes, I know. I actually think I may have suggested it. I didn't realize it was going to go as dark as it's going to go.
Yes. Well, I have
and
to
it's
say
really like
that
doing
too,
double true crime. So
because when I read my notes over again after I got them together earlier, I read them. I thought, oh, this is like a true crime.
Rides of both true crimes. So listeners, if you feel like I've been wronged by this double true crime episode, please contact us and tell us and rally around me and say Skye needs two pub cultures in a row to make up for it.
And dear listeners, if you disagree with what Skye's saying and you like the true crimes, just let us know and we'll continue with just true crimes.
This is not going to become an only true crime podcast, okay? It would never happen over my dead body.
Just let us know if that's what you want. Whisper it to me.
Or email us. We have an email,
We do have an email, but it's rarely checked.
Occasionally checked because we get so much fucking spam in it.
We get so much fan mail that we just never look to check.
We don't have time to check it. We got so many fans we just don't have time to respond.
Anyone want to actually be a part-time helper in our thing for free?
Yeah, totally.
Edit our shows.
Edit our shows. Run errands for us.
Buy our
alcohol.
We're taking subscriptions.
We'll give you a
applications.
We'll give you a credit on the
show.
We'll
mention you in the show. You don't get a word in, but we'll still mention you.
You can't say anything.
Yeah. Shh. Good night, you stupid bitches.
Good night.
Yeah, that stupid bitch. Mm-hmm. He's a stupid bitch. What a stupid bitch. That stupid bitch.